Hello, everyone. Welcome to this Q&A. It's a pleasure to have you all with us today to talk about Ladybuckit and the Motley Mopsters that we've all just finished watching. I hope you all enjoyed it as much as I did. We're so excited to have Adebisi Adetayo with us today. Welcome, BC, the director of Ladybuckit and the Motley Mopsters, who will be answering a few of your questions.
Hello, everybody. Hope you enjoyed the movie. Hello.
Hello, Adebisi.
Hope you guys enjoyed the movie.
Yes, it was fantastic. Welcome, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. We're so excited to hear from you about, your inspiration and how you went about creating this story and just the whole creative process. Whatever you can share with us about how you made this fantastic film. So I watched it with my 9-year-old, whose favorite character, of course, was the mop. He just loved him. But tell us, DBC, welcome, first of all. Thank you so much for all that fantastic work. What was the inspiration? What have you done up to this point that led you to Ladybuckit and the Motley Mopsters?
Well, before now, I've worked on my biggest work so far internationally was Game of Thrones. I worked on season 7 of Game of Thrones. And apart from that, I've been working on a lot of Nigerian movies as season movies. So Wrong, So Right, Tales of Eve, quite a lot of them, mostly episodes of 200 episodes, 400 episodes, doing the colors and the visual effect for them. And apart from that, being the founder of the Academy of Art and Design, that's 32 AD, which actually focused more on training, developing human capacity in the animation industry within Nigeria. Apart from that, we've been also trying out some little beautiful short films. One of them is OGDBia. One of them is OGDBia. We shot animations, very African centric, because throughout the entire short film, it was actually practically Igbo language that was spoken throughout. So that has been my journey. This is my 21st year in the CG industry.
Right.
Yes, I'm very glad that we actually were able to put out Ladybuckit. It was being executively produced by Alt Ticket Company. It was a bold step for them to have contracted us to produce this project. It was very big. We started in 2019, November 2019. And it took about, from November 2019, we rounded up the movie November 2020. And that was approximately 1 year to produce a feature film of what you just saw. So that was a lot of work for the entire team at 3280 to make that happen. And really, my best appreciation goes to Blessing Amidu for believing in us, because many people don't believe that it can actually be done and be done in Nigeria despite the severe issues we have in terms of power, human resources, and all of that. For the animation part, it took about 24 people. We were 24 animators who worked on this, all from
Hello? Lucy, can you still hear me? Seems like we're just having a little bit of an issue hearing BC there. Just going to give it a minute or two to see if he can connect back to us. We'll just give it a couple of minutes and see if he's able to connect. I'm sure it's just a connectivity issue. He'll be back with us in a bit. please, everyone, BC is going to be with us for a little while for this Q&A. If you've got questions about, the animation industry, about the story, about the characters, just send them through where you can pop them onto Facebook. You can pop them through here on Eventive, and we'll make sure that those questions go through to BC and he can answer and share, the background of the film with you. We're very, very excited to have you all with us. I want to make sure that you share in all this fantastic creativity that we are seeing in the animation industry in Nigeria. This year for the festival, we actually had 5 entries. 4 of them were shorts. And of course, this feature, Ladybuckit and the Motley Mopsters. So what that's telling us is that the industry is booming. And as BC just said, 24 people worked on this. So that shows that there's real opportunity there for training young folks, for building up talent, for sort of using the talent to create our own stories. So it's fantastic and really exciting what's happening in the animation industry, not just in Nigeria, because of course the other shorts that were entered were, some of them were from other countries. So it's exciting to see the development of this industry, and of course what this means for widening the number of audiences and widening content, of course, for our young people. It's exciting times. And of course, the film itself, if anyone missed the actual viewing, Ladybuckit and the Motley Mopsters will be on the platform if you missed the live viewing. So you still have an opportunity to catch it, and I highly recommend it, especially with the younger audiences. As I was saying to BC at the start of this Q&A, I watched it with my 9-year-old who just loved it, and thought it was great that he could see a story from Nigeria, so set on the continent, and he loved the characters. The character development was fantastic. He could identify with some of the characters, and it's definitely speaking to the reality of children around that age group. So really don't hesitate to come back on the platform if you missed the live viewing and catch that one, especially if you've got younger folks around you, little ones around the age of 7, 8, 9. Could they be nieces, nephews, your own children? It's a fantastic moment to share with them. And yeah, again, I think it's important. It looks like we're gonna get, yay, great. So happy to have you back.
Thank you very much.
We're not immune to little technical issues here and there, but listen, where there's a will, there's a way.
Sure, that's all that matters. That's
exactly.
all that matters.
And we keep calling you today to get you back because we want to hear about the film. So this is great to have back. I was just saying it's great to hear that 24 people worked on the film. That says a lot about sort of the talent that's brewing in the industry. You mentioned a bit about training. What are you finding in terms of human resources and the animation capacity in Nigeria and the continent at the moment?
For us, it's not about the people. Hello?
I can hear you. We can hear you well, BC. We'll get him back. Just give us a minute, folks. Give us another minute or two. BC will join us again. So yes, so what I was saying is that we hope there'll be many more of these. It's the first Nigerian feature animation, and we're hoping that it'll be the first of many. But one of the key things that this shows is that it can be done, and that there's a story there, and we see all um, the themes that we're used to in animation. The music is there, the characters that are sort of fully developed, and it leads us to other things as well that we've seen quite a bit with animation, sort of whatever annex businesses that can be linked to animation like this. If my 9-year-old was so excited about the mop, wouldn't it be fantastic to again have characters like that available in sort of miniatures that children can take away, characters that look like them, that they recognize in a story, that's set in their environment, and so that giving young children other types of characters to identify with, who are really sort of from the environment that they're familiar with. So I think that's another really interesting point that we ought to think about, is what are the annex businesses that can come up out of this new development of animated films, and certainly feature length ones, because I think that's where we've seen a lot of shorts, of course, but seeing features really gives a lot of hope for the kind of content that we can create for young children. And as we know, animation is not just for children. So a lot of times animations, particularly on the continent, are used to educate and for social change, and to sort of get people to move in a certain direction around key issues like health. And we saw, of course, some of those themes come out in the film as well. Themes like around cleanliness, around keeping promises, keeping your word, themes around bullying, of course, came out in the film. So we know that animation can really tackle a lot of these social issues. And there is also another discussion that we ran here during the festival earlier this week, that you can find on replay, that talks a bit about you know funding for African animation, particularly. And so you can find that discussion here if you're really interested in that aspect, from the Funding African Animation Conference. So that's also available to you. Adibisi is also was on that panel discussion, so you can also hear from him about a bit more about Ladybuckit and how it was created from that replay. So yes, please don't hesitate to come on and check that out in replay, the discussion on animation and funding African animation particularly. Because we all know that's also one of the key issues. You heard him say 24 people worked on it for a whole year, and that never comes cheap. And it takes a certain amount of technical skills to be able to produce that.
Hello.
Please stay with us.
I'm back.
Yes.
The network has been a little bit bad around here, but I think I found a very good spot, so it's going to be stable.
Yes, that's our biggest challenge, right? I'm sure you weren't spared that. We talk about productivity on the continent, and these are some of the things that sort of just knock us time and time again. But again, we're survivors, right?
Yeah, yes, we are survivors. Okay.
So we were talking a bit, you were saying that it's not just about training, we're talking about the human resources. Because I was saying earlier, 24 people for a whole year. I mean, what are you seeing in terms of the capacity of animators in Nigeria and in the continent? How many more Ladybuckits are we likely to get full feature length in the coming months?
when it comes to the human capacity, for us at 2AD, we actually groom people from the scratch. We don't need you to have any knowledge of animation at all, because
Okay.
we have an academy which is different. So we groom you from nothing. Once at least you have a good background in anything computational skills, we're able to take it from there and build what you want to be into it, because we know that there are no universities that offer courses, so we can't find ready-made talent in that
Right.
area. So we go for any willing heart. If anybody who is willing to learn, we are ready to actually impact on you. I'm an Autodesk licensed instructor, so that means that the challenge actually meets its solution. That's actually the way we see it. So that's why I was able to come up with 32 Animation Studio and also the academic side. But for in future, for us to see projects like Ladybuckit and maybe even other bigger projects, we need to sort out the aspect of proper education, because if there's no education, there's no economy. It's closely tied to each other. There's no education, you can't have an economy built out of nothing. There must be education. And with that, we'll be able to also not just create,
Education
but be able
generate broadly, sorry, education broadly speaking, or education specifically around animation?
education specifically around animation,
Mhm.
because
Right.
animation is extremely broad, extremely broad. There are so many fields in the field of animation, so many, and some of them even go to the point of you being your mathematics skills must be excellent, excellent mathematics skills. Your physics skills must be top notch. You must be able to read. You must be able to read SIGGRAPH documents and understand SIGGRAPH documentations, understand the mathematics, the Laplacian transformations, and all of that detail of mathematics. I believe that many of the things that we actually do in animation that requires much of the technical skills have actually been taught in the universities. That's the truth.
Right, right.
But the how to apply it outside of the four walls of the university is what many people don't actually know about.
Mhm.
I know people who actually study mathematics in school, and they don't know that as far as when you were actually in JS3, you had the entire skills to actually create a game. That's the truth.
Yeah.
Everything you require to create a full game, you already have it. So it's going to take a little bit of time, but we just need to be more conscious about growth.
Right.
The growth must be deliberate. It can't just be, we just expect to find ourselves in a greater tomorrow. Just like that, it's not going to happen. It has to be conscious, it has to be deliberate, it has to be planned, it has to be monitored.
Yeah. And where do you see those resources coming from? I mean, I know you do some training, so you're both, you're on both sides. You're not just doing production; you're also working on building up the industry. Where do you see that kind of support coming from? Are you thinking that what we need are people who are willing to invest in training facilities, who are willing, or is the training going to come through films? Where you've got films that are commissioned, and so you will train people to work on films and so on, and so we build capacity? Or is it a two-pronged approach, where you need the schools and you also need the films happening at the same time?
Schools, it has to come from the schools. It has to come from investment in the training capacities. That's where it's going to come from. But that's the only way people who are willing to invest into production, animation production, can actually be at peace that the fellow who's actually handling the project is exposed enough, experienced enough, and proficient enough to, because nobody wants to throw away their money. Sincerely, nobody wants to. There's nobody that's into business that wants to throw away their money. So it's very important that that aspect actually be resolved first. Education first before any other thing. Education, proper education first before any other thing. Then looking at people investing into the production industry or the animation industry, that's very, very necessary, because as Africa as a whole, we don't have a children's content. There's no children's channel that we can turn to in the
Yeah.
whole of Africa. None, none. We practically consume foreign content. And if we are as big as Africa and we cannot sustainably produce 22 episodes of an animated content, then something is wrong. Something is big time wrong there. We need to really pay attention to those things. So
Yeah.
it's actually necessary not just to invest in the educational part, but also to invest in the production part of it.
Mhm, mhm.
I
So it's
believe
a
there
two-pronged
are
approach.
financial, yes, I believe there are financial institutions that can actually take this up as a responsibility for them to own this content. And they, because animation is it takes a lot of time for you to recuperate your money, but
Yeah.
it's actually a sure investment. because you can diversify into merchandising and all of that. It's a very
Exactly.
sure investment. Yes. So
That's what I was
that was
mentioning
actually
earlier when we got disconnected. I was saying there's so many annex businesses that can be linked to this. I was saying how much my son loved the mop. He'd love to have a figure, as merchandise, here just to say, yeah, I saw this film and I loved it, and it's a character that I could relate to. So we also need to um, I think you're spot on about exploring what the other opportunities are beyond the film to make it much more viable and to make it sort of a sustainable development in the industry. And we go right back to Ladybuckit. The songs, right? We love the
oh,
songs. It's all
the song.
original. And
Yeah,
the
geez.
question that's come through from our audience is, what was the inspiration for the music? How was it developed? There's a little hint of Lion King there at the beginning, he
Yeah,
mentioned.
yeah, yeah,
So tell us
yeah.
about how the music and the songs were created, and who's the
Wow, the
fantastic
song.
person behind it.
Yes, the song was actually produced by Ava Momo. He's a very talented composer. Ava Momo and DJ Clem. They were the composers behind this, and I believe the songwriters actually went from Nero. Nero Afiari was one of the music composers of this song. He was part of the executive production team. She actually came down to also get involved in the script writing, in the songwriting. And I believe there were also other three people who actually wrote the songs. The songs for me they blew me up. The first time I listened to the songs, but like was probably the one when she actually came back home. Home again. Home again was fantastic. For us during the course of production, it was like we just kept it on the complete playback. It was
Yeah,
beautiful. It was
yeah.
beautiful. And being an original soundtrack, wow, you could listen to it in your cars. There are actually songs that you could actually buy. It's beautiful. It is beautiful. All the piece in the music in it, and the one that was actually used for the final end credit also. Forgotten the title now. That rock and roll beat was excellent. It was excellent. Every part of it was well produced. It was well
So
produced.
can we expect an album?
Definitely, definitely, definitely. You will
Okay,
really
good stuff.
enjoy it.
Yeah, no, the music is fantastic, and the music, of course, comes back to this. This is music from our environment, right? This is music from
Yes.
where we're from. It's music from the soul, so people can connect with it. And of course, it's music that everybody globally can love, but you can feel it when it's your own, right? But what about the story itself? What was the inspiration for the story? We see a lot of themes in there. Some themes around cleanliness, touches a bit on bullying. Um, what was happening in your minds when you were getting ready to pen this?
Well, the story is actually divided in two realms, basically. It divided into the aspect that she actually came from Oloibiri, which was 956, far back as 956. The bigger part of the story happened in 2019, which was the future she came to. And apart from the very obvious stories that were actually there, it actually showed us something that if Oloibiri, which as it is today, was actually the natural resources that was gotten from there was actually invested back into that thing because Olebiri was where Nigeria first found this commercial value of oil as a commercial volume of oil. And if you go to Olebiri today, the place is in shambles. There's zero level of development, zero level of development. And funny, every other place in Nigeria are developed based on the same resources that were gotten from the same place. So how can a place be the origin of wealth for a nation and the place has zero growth completely? So they've actually showed us what Oloibiri would have been if if the natural resources of that place was actually put back into it. So that's one of the back end stories there. Apart from the story of Lady Bucket herself going to the future to see what could have happened, the story of cleanliness was there. The story of friendship, very important, was also part of the story. We ensured that we actually communicated to the audience, and the story of possibilities.
Mm-hmm.
Possibilities. Those were the major inclinement
Mm-hmm.
of the story for us.
Okay. That's fantastic. And I think, again, for our younger audiences, it's really important to be able to make those connections, right? Even if it's not, and that's the beauty of art and the beauty of film. You don't have to spell it out, but you can. Everyone can make their own connections, and
Connections.
of course, the universal themes of friendship really resonate with a lot of folks. So, that's I think that's fantastic. Um, there's a bit of history in there. 1956, right? Was there any? Were you thinking like this is going to be a history lesson? Was there any particular commentary on the relationship between the British when Nigeria was a British protectorate? Like,
Mm.
the Queen is still the Queen.
Yes,
Oh,
not exactly. We didn't want to make it because it is not a depiction of fact as 100% in terms of what Olebiri was at that particular time. It was not a complete depiction of fact. But at that particular time, we were expecting the Queen in Nigeria, in
mhm,
Port Harcourt, and to visit Lagos also. We're expecting the Queen, that's the Queen of England, to visit those two areas for back then. But we didn't want to make it much of an historic class because the story is meant for the kids or for the young at heart as much as possible. And many people don't want to actually reflect back on history. That's why that history makes us who we are today. And we just want people to just enjoy themselves, actually.
yeah,
Watching Oloibiri, you would really enjoy yourself. The natural environment, the sceneries actually make you feel like, oh, very nostalgic. So this was how it
yeah,
used to be and all of that. For the story, we would have loved to play more of the library part, as in have so much of a show more of the tradition and all of that. But wanted to be more a little bit detached from that area and push focus more on just enjoying themselves rather than
yeah.
trying to travel back in time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about the script because that's it flowed so well. The timing of the story was really great. What Tell us about the process of developing the script for Lady Bucket.
Wow, there were amazing people working on the script. We didn't start on the script at first. We actually came on board on the script later in the at the very beginning of the project. There were very great minds like Chris Ehide, which was one of the directors of Sugar. I think Usher Sugar, very talented, crazy people, as in creatively crazy people. And the executive producer was also involved in the script development because she was the originator. Our daughter was the originator of the script. The initial idea behind the story actually came from her daughter, and she decided to just develop it further. That means that don't actually ignore the creativity in your children. It's very important. They could spark up great things. So the story came from there, and it was developed further. I think it had gone through like two stages of production that had challenges, and when it came on board, they had to review the script again to finalize on it. When the script was finished, finally, it was presented to us, and we looked at it. It was basically a script conference. So the script for movies differs from script for animation. That's what you need to be very, 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 very careful of. If you implement the script for a movie for an animation, you're going to spend the whole of your budget. You're going to spend like 50 billion naira, and at the end of the day, you won't get anything done.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when we actually got the script, we did a little review on it, adjusted some of the few lines because there are some words that are not used in animation that actually are used in films. So we reviewed it. Chris Aideru was a very, very big player in making that happen. Everybody played a very big role. One of the biggest role that was actually played was Blessing Amidu herself. That's the executive producer. She didn't just sit down and just I'm just going to fund it and sit down by the side of no. She was involved in every single step of the process, which is I wish there are more people like her who can actually do that, not just dispense money, but are willing to be involved. So that's actually how the story turned out bit by bit throughout the entire level of production. We see how the story has been adjusted a little bit, because at times you can't really visualize the story completely from script until you actually begin to see the visuals. That's when you now begin to make some iterative adjustments on the script. So throughout the entire 1 year of production, we're at least open to that, so that we could add make better improvement on the
Right.
script and all. So that was it actually.
A very collaborative process.
Very,
Um,
very
from the
collaborative. Very, very
yeah.
collaborative.
No, that's good. And I think one of the things that came out as well is it's funny, right? The mop, he's funny. But I think it comes through again in the script. I mean, like, there's a real playful nature, and I don't know if there's any reflection that went back into sort of how children learn or how children process content. But children, the sort of the extreme and the wild and the sort of almost impossible is possible in children's minds, right? And that comes through a little bit. It comes through in the film and these sort of like fantastic things that happen and these really funny, wildly funny characters. Um, did you talk a bit with some, early childhood specialists, or what was? How did you get into children's minds to think about, what children would appreciate? How did you get yourself into
Well,
that state of mind?
that honor actually will go to the script writing team. They did all of that. They did the heavy lifting for us. That's Blessing Amidu, Nero Afiari, um, Chris Hideru, and his team. They did all the heavy lifting for us. We just only visualized it, and I just added some spices and what they actually had created. And I believe when the first time I came on board on the project and I read a few parts of the synopsis, I asked the producer that I should actually run this story through kids. No, the story actually was originated by a child. So it would
Yeah,
actually easily fit, yes, it would actually
yeah,
easily fit into any child's mind very easily. But I remember asking her a question that have you actually tried reading the stories to kids? She said yes, it's actually been proved that the story actually works. So we were very confident that if we go into production with it, it's going to actually come out well. But know that script is actually different from execution. They are two different things. Yes, they are two different things because as you're implementing the stories, there are times in the animation world where you need to go beyond the story, beyond the script,
yeah.
far
And there are a lot
beyond
of
that.
things. I mean,
Yes.
even with the character who sneezed every time, it made perfect sense because she
Just
picks dust up. But you don't have to
yes,
say that. She just has to keep sneezing all throughout the film for you to
yes.
like recognize that that's a part of her character, and that kind of character development is quite good. But it also connects with children because then they figure something out, and it's at the level that a child can figure something out. So they're like, "Oh, did you notice that she was sneezing all the time?" That's what my son said. So I think that's fantastic work that comes through from the animation that doesn't necessarily have to come from a script, but
Yeah.
is a part of the storytelling. So well done. We have another question from the audience, BC, and it goes back to this notion of training and human capacity. What advice do you have for young animators who are starting up now? What would you say?
Well, for those who are actually starting up, there's a mindset that you could actually learn alone. That's a school of thought. You could learn alone. But that's gonna take you years. I started my journey learning alone. And if I had not had the opportunity I had in Egypt and I had in South Africa, it wouldn't have made much of a big difference for me. I would have just struggled throughout my entire career, maybe. Um, but if you actually want to grow fast, learning, there's a part of learning called internship. Internship is very, very important. You might be very good at what you do, or you think you're very good at what you do. But when you get into a studio environment, you see that, wait a minute, all what you've learned, they don't apply
Yeah.
here.
So this notion of applied learning is key. I hear you repeating it. It's applied learning. Even if you have general knowledge from school,
Yes.
it's putting yourself in a position where you can learn through doing. Is that what I hear you
Yes.
saying?
Yes, precisely. Precisely. So if you can do that, don't don't try to learn in isolation. To take you a huge amount of years to discover the wrongs, the right. Because being in the production environment, you see that a lot of things that you've learned actually work in other scenarios, but don't work in the part. Every production has its own challenges. So the best way to learn on your own. Yes, that's good. That's good effort. I encourage that. But as much as possible, read books. Yeah, I know there are videos, tutorials, and all of that. I know there are videos, there YouTube is there and all of that. But as much as possible, the people who are actually into production in other countries don't have the time to put a video tutorial for you. They don't have them. They are so busy. But many of them actually do a lot of SIGGRAPH presentation, technical presentations, which you can need to follow up on. Very, very important. Then apart from you learning the artistic skills, please, as much as possible, be close to your mathematics teacher and your physics teacher. Be very, very close to them because they might just be your saviors at the end. Animation is not different from your normal academics. They are not different. It's actually building knowledge on knowledge. That's actually what it is. So your mathematics, stay close to it. Take everything they teach you in mathematics funny. Your first 2 days in animation, you find everything playing out. When we actually trained some of the first set that worked on Ladybuckit, after the first month, they discovered that there was a particular book in physics called PNOKK. It's a whole physics textbook and this general mathematics, very big textbook. Those guys went back to so that everything they could do there was actually playing out in animation. You can't dodge it. There's no knowledge that is isolated. You build on it. So that's all the part of it. The another part of it is this: as much as possible, you can't give a character a life you don't have.
Yeah.
Very important.
So
So you need to your social skills need to be at the best. You can't lock yourself up in a room and feel you're gonna get good. It's not gonna happen. You need to have a good social skills, as in relate with people, be very funny, be very lively. If you're gonna give characters life, you yourself must have a lot of it. So be able to play out those roles. And acting is also very important because everything you saw in Ladybuckit and Motley Mopsters was hand driven. Nothing was motion captured. Everything was hand driven, frame by frame, frame by frame, frame by frame. And it took for an animation like this, it was taking more than a year. But because we were locked up, everybody was fitted and everything, you're able to pull it through. If you can follow all those process, I believe with a very short amount of time, just give yourself a space of 8 months. 8 months, you find yourself in a big studio. You'll be involved in a real production. Because one, you have people skills, social skills are very important, teamwork are very important. One thing is this: for most Africans, they are kind of very selfish. That I have seen. Selfish. You don't need that. You don't need that. You don't need that. You just need to free up yourself. Free up yourself. If you have a particular knowledge to share with your fellow, share it. It only makes you better. Share it. Share it, and
So
keep growing. Keep climbing up the rope. Relate with people. So
I think that's fantastic. You can come up with the 8-month plan to become a top to get onto the animator to become an animator. Pay attention to your mathematics and physics knowledge. It's not an isolated theme, so you have to build on knowledge that you have. And I think that's important, especially because we have so many people who are self-learned, self-taught. And so it's important to get that message across that you have to have a whole so your mathematics and physics skills, social skills, and get yourself an internship, get on production.
Yes, very, very important. Very, very important. Even if you have to be the one carrying the cup, as in serving people tea, please do.
Yeah, because you learn anyway.
In-house now, we have our janitor. The janitor, she actually does the cleaning of the office. She's becoming a very good 3D artist now. So
there you go.
Get involved. Yeah, get involved. Get involved. Fantastic. It's not an isolated thing. You need to get involved.
Yeah. I think that's great advice to wrap up this Q&A on BC, and we're really so appreciative of your time, and just want to congratulate you again on this excellent work, and for your commitment to the industry, and for creating something that's so fantastic for our young audience, because content of our own for youngsters is massively important. But I just want to say that adults will enjoy it as well, because I thoroughly enjoyed it. So we're going to wrap up this Q&A. A massive thank you to you. Wrapping it up on a note of advice, of course, to young animators to just get into production, develop your social skills, develop your all-round mathematics and physics knowledge. And of course, the conversation will continue in the networking hub for any of you who are interested. The link will be posting it, but just go on to the Nollywood Week website and look for networking hub and register, and you'll be able to continue with this conversation. So massive thank you as well to all of you for following this Q&A. Bye, everyone.